If you've ever relapsed and you've said to yourself, it's not that big of a deal. I'll just start over again from the beginning. I need you to hear something today, because starting over is not the same as starting fresh. Your brain is keeping score. Your body is keeping score. And when you return to drinking after a period of sobriety, the stakes actually get higher, not lower. In today's video, I'm going to talk about two things that most people in recovery have never heard about, but absolutely need to know. The first is the Kindling Effect, and the second is the progressive nature of addiction. And together, these two things explain why relapse is never just a minor setback. Let's get into it. So what is the Kindling Effect? Well, the Kindling Effect is a neurological phenomenon, meaning that it's something that happens in the brain that occurs with repeated cycles of alcohol use and withdrawal. Each time that you quit drinking and then go back to it, your withdrawal symptoms actually get worse. They don't stay the same. They get worse. And this also applies to benzodiazepines such as Xanax and Valium, as well as opioids. Really any depressant where the body becomes dependent, right? Where you can become physically dependent, but it's especially well documented with alcohol. So let's think about the Kindling Effect like this. The first time that someone decides to quit drinking, their withdrawal symptoms might look something like this. Some anxiety, difficulty sleeping, irritability, sweating, uncomfortable symptoms, but manageable. Now, let's assume that this person relapses. They drink for several months, and then they try to quit again. What do their symptoms look like this time? What do their withdrawal symptoms look like this time? We could be talking about worsening anxiety, increased or worsening irritability, more difficulty sleeping, and this time they might start to get tremors or shakes. Now, if this happens again, right? If they relapse and return to drinking, and then attempt to quit again, well, this time in withdrawal, we could be talking about seizures, hallucinations, delirium tremens. These are potentially life-threatening complications. The brain essentially remembers each withdrawal that it's been through, and it overreacts more intensely each time, almost as though it's building up a hypersensitivity to the absence of alcohol. And this is why I always say, and I can't stress it enough, if you are a heavy drinker, if you know that you're a heavy drinker, and you plan to quit drinking, it is very important that you consult with your doctor first before you try to quit cold turkey, because depending on where you are in your drinking, trying to quit cold turkey can actually be dangerous. And if you've been through multiple withdrawal cycles already, your chances of experiencing the more severe or dangerous withdrawal symptoms are even more so. So it is very important that if you are a heavy drinker, that you consult with your doctor. So the second thing that I wanted to talk about, which is just as important, is something called the progressive nature of addiction. Addiction is not a static disease or a static phenomenon. Addiction does not stay the same, right? It doesn't stagnate. Addiction moves in one direction, and that direction is forward. It accelerates over time. It worsens over time. And what that means for someone who relapses is this. When you relapse, you don't go back to zero. You don't go back to where you were when you first started drinking, right? You often return right back to where you left off. when you decided that you wanted to get sober. So, let's talk about why it happens that way. When you get sober and then relapse, your tolerance can come back surprisingly fast. Your brain, especially the reward system, it remembers the substance, it remembers the high, it remembers the euphoria, it remembers the escape, and it wants to get back to that as fast as it can. And so a lot of people who relapse, they find that in a short time, they're drinking just as much as they used to. Sometimes they're even drinking more than they were before they got sober. I've had my own personal experiences with the progressive nature of addiction, where each time that I would relapse after a period of sobriety, I would notice that I would not go back to zero. I would not go back to a time where it felt like I had never drank before, right? I would basically go right back to where I was before I stopped drinking. And it would not take very long. I would say within a week, right? It only took about 1 week, and I would spiral right back to where I was before I stopped drinking. So, I understand that for me, going back to that, even just that one drink is simply it's not a feasible option for me, because from experience, I know where I'm going to end up if I do go back to that. So, it's important to understand the progressive nature of addiction, and how, each time that we do relapse and go back to our old habits, we go right back to where we were before we got sober, and we have a chance of getting worse beyond that point. So it's worth looking at our experiences. It's worth looking at that progression, and how, things do tend to get worse each time that we relapse. It's good to look at that and to learn from that, and to ask ourselves if it's really worth it. And let's talk about the psychological pull of this. The cravings, the obsessive thinking, the intrusive thoughts, the urges. These all tend to be stronger the second time around, because now your brain knows exactly what it's been missing, right? It's not just chasing something new anymore, right? It's trying to reconnect with something that it remembers, right? It's trying to reconnect with something that is familiar and nostalgic, right? That is a very different and very powerful kind of craving. So when you combine these two things, the kindling effect, making your withdrawals more dangerous each time, and the progressive nature of addiction, making your usage patterns heavier, what you get is a picture that should make anyone think twice before picking up another drink, right? That just one more drink after a period of sobriety can genuinely be dangerous on more than one level, physically, neurologically, and behaviorally. Now, I'm not saying this to scare anyone, and I'm certainly not saying this to shame anyone who may have relapsed, because relapse is a very common part of the recovery process, and most people who got sober long term didn't do it on their first try. I know I certainly didn't, right? I relapsed more times than I can remember. So understanding what's happening neurologically, right? Understanding what's happening in our brains neurologically when we relapse, it changes the way that we think about the recovery process. And understanding the kindling effect, right? When we understand the kindling effect, the idea of one more drink, it's not something that we take lightly. It's not something trivial. And it's also not a moral failure on our part if we do actually cave and have that drink. It is a potential medical risk. When you understand that addiction progresses, you stop expecting to be able to go back and control it, as you may have been able to do when you first started drinking, right? You understand that old relationship that you had with alcohol, where at one point you were able to control your drinking, that relationship no longer exists. The disease has moved, your addiction has moved, and you need to move as well. And the direction you need to move in is the direction of recovery. And that's why building a real foundation in sobriety matters, right? Not just white knuckling it, not just going based on willpower alone, but having an understanding of the root causes, right? Having the right support network around you, and also having an understanding of what's happening to you on a biological level. That is the work, and it is absolutely worth doing. If you're watching this video and you're on your sober journey, whether you're thinking about getting sober, whether you are newly sober, or whether you've been sober before and you've relapsed a number of times, whatever it is, just know that what you're going through is very real, and it is not just a lack of willpower or a lack of character or anything like that. There is science behind what you're going through, and there is a way through it. If you would like to talk about where you are on your recovery journey, I offer free consultations. Links in the description below. And if you'd like to know more about what I do professionally, you can feel free to visit my website at www.kickthehabitcoaching.com. If this video helped you in any way, if you got value out of this video, please do give it a like. Leave a comment in the comment section below to let me know what you thought or where you are on your sobriety journey. And feel free to subscribe to the channel for more videos on addictions, recovery, sober living, and more motivational content like this. I really appreciate you guys making it to the end of this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.